Well, hello, my name is Jessica Cotton, and this is my presentation on empathy training. So, empathy is the sharing of another's emotions and the graceful joining of that person's journey. It is like being with a person on a deeper level than just feeling sorry for them. So it is not just sympathy. It involves cognitions that kind of um, mirror the other another person's experience, allowing you to feel emotions that would not have been there unless another person had experienced them first. It is also meant for helping the other person. It is a compassionate, loving type of transaction that is kind of hard to explain, but it is very useful in therapy and is one of the best most common components of effective therapeutic outcomes. So what have I learned in this course? Three things are emotional contagion. Emotional contagion really is a kind of like what I mentioned before. It's about kind of catching another person's emotions. So if someone is happy or overjoyed, then you might also feel happy and overjoyed. And then if you see someone who is sad and sorrowful, then you might also experience the sadness or sorrow. And this happens in session often when I am speaking with my clients, and it's helpful to develop those deep bonds where the person that I'm sitting with actually feels heard. And I've had people say, "You feel me? You feel me?" And I know now that they are just talking about empathizing with them. They don't want People don't want you to just leave yourself out of it. They want you to walk through the experience with them, and it's helpful to create an environment for change. So, I've also learned that it is not necessary to agree with a person to show empathy. We have had several cases that we've talked through in this course about an illegal immigrant who had a son uh, tortured and murdered someone, and sexually abusive grandfather, and a drug addicted, neglectful mother. Those were all cases where it could have been very difficult for some to have the ability to show empathy towards these people. But I recognize that it's important to look at the person's situation and place yourself in their shoes. If you were dealing with such circumstances, then how might you feel? And that's what allows me to empathize with the person, because in each and every circumstance, I can understand the hurt. I can understand the pain. I can understand the guilt, the shame, and uh, it it helped me realize that even though I don't agree with the circumstances by which they got to that place in life, that I can still show them empathy and offer them love, which is what God does for us all the time. So empathy is not the only empathy is not only needed in negative situations. So just as I said before with the emotional contagion, that it's important for us to also share joys and excitement with other people. That also builds our rapport with our clients. It's not always all about just seeing them in their hurt, but also celebrating them in their joys. And those were the three most important things I felt that I learned in this empathy course. So, my strengths and weaknesses, I actually am a highly empathetic person, and those were described in the assessment as effective empathy and cognitive empathy. Well, effective empathy is just how I'm able to sense others' emotions, and this allows me to be more concerned about others' welfare and it also describes how I'm more likely to want to help. The cognitive empathy really is how I am able to place myself mentally in someone else's shoes and kind of walk that mile in them and see things from their perspective. It helps to understand another person's perspective because then I'm less likely to depend on the stereotypes of whatever might be stereotypical for that person. And I also have some weaknesses that were pointed out in the assessment that we took, and it was also found under the effective empathy portion where I can become too distressed because of the emotional contagion effect and a lot and this can prevent me from being the effective helper that I want to be. So that's something I really have to pay attention to in sessions and whenever I'm communicating with my clients because I don't want to become so emotionally entangled with someone else's situations that I'm thinking about myself being in it and not actually helping the client where they are. So I looked up what could help me with those weaknesses. And here is my plan for deeper development of empathy. So there were several other things that I found could help to develop my ability to show empathy and empathize with others, but these I thought were the things that I haven't done as much and could do more of, uh, which are reading fiction, watching films, and watching plays. These things allow me to become completely immersed into someone else's situation and circumstances without becoming too distressed over it because I know for a fact that these are not real characters, um, which I can appreciate because it allows me to have that separation and I don't need to help. I don't need to fix it up. So I'm definitely going to try to read more fiction and watch more films and plays. I do watch films and plays already, but I think the reading fiction really will be where I'll be able to grow and expand my understanding of empathy and develop it even further. So, my biblical perspective is that the most powerful tool in therapy is best demonstrated by Jesus Christ. Wow, is how I felt whenever I realized this because empathy, when I think of empathy, I think of love. And when I think of love, I think of God. And God is Jesus Christ. So, he demonstrated that love by coming to live in this broken, messed up world that, by the way, we messed it up, not God. But he came to redeem his people and God sent his only son into the world to love us back to him. So he's not just some deity that's sitting up on a cloud looking down at us and doesn't know what we're going through. Hebrews 4 and 15 says it like this, that we do not have a high priest that cannot empathize with our emotions or our infirmities. And I think the translation of the we do not have a high priest that cannot be touched by the feelings of our infirmities, which basically means that we don't have a God that doesn't understand empathy, that can't empathize with where we've been because he's lived it. He took a trip, Jesus Christ, to planet Earth, and he experienced being born as an innocent baby that needed help from everyone, who grew up in a household where he was probably an average child as much as he could be, being God. And where he had to follow the rules of society, as long as they didn't go against who God was, and where he had to submit to the authority of parents, um, and then grow up and have a career where he was a builder, a carpenter, and he had differences with other people, where uh, he had to experience all of that, and it just normalizes his experience to the human race. For me, I see it as, oh my God, look at my God. He knows where I am. He's not just seeing it, he has lived it, and he has experienced it. And so whenever I'm hurting, I know God hurt. They beat him. They beat him almost to death. They hung him on the cross. I know that he was tempted to do wrong and evil things, and that he had to eat to live. I know that he has experienced like being without. And so when I think about Christ, and how he influences my ability to show empathy in therapy, I want to always remember that it's the greatest demonstration, because it's not just cognitive for him. It's not just affective. It's not sensing. He knows. He really knows. And so I also want to look at Romans 5 and 8. And it says, when we were still sinners, Christ died. A man giving his life up for his people, that's big all in itself. But for him to live a complete life, because death is a part of it for us, and actually go through with experiencing death, my thought about it is that he loves us so much that he was willing to feel even death. So there is more than just the joining of the experience. There is where he is this great example of how we can live and walk, but then there is this empowerment because of the free gift that he gave. And so as clinicians, we must always remember to show our clients the grace that God granted us through his death and resurrection, because he gave us life because of it. We get to have life because of it. And we can never sit back and think, that's too bad. I can never sit back. I can never sit back and think, no, that's too bad. I don't know how to show that person grace, because I recognize that gift of grace that's been been given to me. And it, again, is the most beautiful and significant demonstration of empathy through the love of Christ. Here's my reference page, and thank you for attending.